Good evening, everybody. If you are joining us live right now, then the date is Wednesday, March 12th of 2025. You might also be watching this later recorded. It is being recorded, and we will post it so that you and anybody have access to it as of tomorrow. It'll be on the CalSoap website, which is calsoapsandiego.org. We have a blog and webinar section. And I'll be posting this recording, and I will also be posting the slide deck. So the slides that I'm sharing, some of which have hyperlinks, I will be sharing that tomorrow on the website, so that will be accessible to everybody. I know that's usually one of the first questions we get is can I access this recording? Yes, you will be able to as of tomorrow. And can I have a copy of the slides? And yes, you'll also get a copy of the slide deck tomorrow. So to introduce myself, my name is Carla Whitaker. I'm here representing CalSoap, the California Student Opportunity and Access Program. Everything that we do through the California Student Aid Commission is provided free of charge to families, and everything we do is geared to try to give you as many tools and as much knowledge as you can about things like college and financing a college education. So tonight, because it is March, what we're going to be talking about is, so you've been accepted, now what? So March is a big decision time for many universities. And so a lot of students are finding out right now if they apply to universities, if they were accepted, if they were not accepted, if they were waitlisted, and they want to know, okay, well, what are the next steps? Because now some very adult decisions come up. The adulting begins now. So I'm going to hopefully give you some resources that will help you navigate through making choices. And I know a big part of that is financial. You'll notice that the chat is closed, that you won't be able to access the chat as an attendee of this webinar. However, we are able to put links in there that you can then click on, and you can go to directly to a website. But there is a Q&A. So if you go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll probably see a Q&A or question and answer area. If you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I have a student staff member, or one of our leads, Charmaine, and she's going to be helping with the Q&A. And I'm not able to see the Q&A personally when I'm sharing the screen, but she will be able to see it, and she'll be able to type answers for you and give you, offer links in the chat and things like that. And then also at the end, I will review the Q&A, and if there's anything that you weren't able to have answered, I'll do my best to answer it at the end. Okay, so I will go ahead and get started. Again, reminder that this is being recorded. You will have access to it tomorrow through our website, to the recording as well as the slide deck. And now let's get on with our information. Give me one moment so that I can share my screen. All right, so senior year, this is really intended towards seniors. Maybe you are a senior, maybe you're the parent of a senior, of a 12th grader, or you'll have one coming up soon, and you just want to know, what are the steps in the process, and what does my spring look like of 12th grade year? And what do we do next? What's coming up next? So in the fall, you've probably been doing things like filling out college applications, getting letters of recommendation, filling out financial aid forms like the FAFSA or the DREAM Act or the profile, maybe applying for scholarships. I know prom is coming up for many people, and that's also a very big thing in the mind of a high school student a lot of the time. But now is time when you're starting to get things like letters from colleges telling you your status, possibly financial aid awards from colleges, so you know how much financial aid you might be eligible for. Those are the packages that come, so to speak, virtually. There's also usually a time when you have to declare your intent to register, whether you want to register to attend that college. It's time when you have to accept or decline offers of admission. That's coming up soon in the next month or two. And then for some colleges, there's also placement tests, like certain math or English placement tests. And it's when you're deciding on like things like meal plans, residence hall, on campus or off campus living and dining. And then one of the last steps that's usually in early summer is sending your official high school transcript to a future college. So a lot going on the senior year. And I just want to talk about, okay, what steps do we take next? We're in March. What is the next step to get to college? I do want to acknowledge that students and their families might be feeling a lot of these emotions right now. One of the things is fear of rejection, and it's a time when a lot of other seniors and many of your other friends, you know, have also been applying, and sometimes you're going to get in some places and you're not going to get into others, and that can create a lot of like stress and a lot of feelings for you. And we understand that sometimes that makes you feel a certain type of way. But we want to talk about all the options and how there is a place in a college fit for everybody. I know sometimes it's like, well, now I have to make a really big decision. Am I making the right decision? Am I choosing the right college? Will we be able to afford it? So I know there's that kind of fear that goes along with the decision making that's required. And if you are by chance leaving home to go to college, there's a fear in that too, having to, you know, deal with roommates, having to deal with your own bills, your own laundry, your own meals, your own planning for study time, all that kind of thing. It can be a lot, right? And of course, because college does cost money and can be very expensive, for many people, it's the largest purchase of their life so far, unless you have already bought a house or a car. But that's, you know, that's something that we know is on your mind, and we hope to give you some tools to deal with these things. Sometimes you have been a high achieving, you know, student all your life, and you've been maybe the big fish in a small pond, and now you know that you're going to maybe a university or a college where you are now a small fish in a big pond, and that can cause some, you know, a little bit of an identity crisis. And sometimes it's a time where people are saying, what will my social standing be like in college? Will I have the same friends, different friends, a lot of friends, not very many friends? Like, what is it going to be like? And am I going to be able to hack it? Am I smart enough? Am I organized enough to deal with college? And then, of course, there's just the unknown, right? We don't know what we don't know. And I know that's all hurtling at you. So I'm going to break this down into very simple steps that hopefully will give you a solid, structured path. So the first thing you want to be doing this time of year is probably selecting your final college. If you plan to attend a four-year university as a freshman, you are probably close to the intent to register deadline. Typically, it is May 1st. And I know in my head, sometimes I think like, oh, it's May, that's so far away. But right now is March, and it really gives you only the month of April to decide, because May 1st is the first day of May. So know that that is coming up for us. Again, that's about a month and a half or a month, you know, month and 3 weeks away. You also might or might not have received acceptance letters from colleges. You might or might not have received financial aid awards from colleges. And if you haven't yet, please know that if you are accepted somewhere, that for most universities, that will be coming in April. April is a big month where they're doing financial aid award release decisions. I also know that you're probably going to be receiving tons of emails every day as you're hearing from different colleges and universities. It can feel like overwhelming, but again, we'll take this in chunks and in steps and make it manageable and doable. So I'll go over the things you need to consider in order, and I actually have the steps laid out by number. So step one is when you're considering what college am I going to go to, think about your major. Like, do they offer your major? Also, your major might be undeclared. At some universities, you can go in as undecided or undeclared, which is perfectly fine for many places. There are a very few very selective majors at certain campuses that you can't transfer into, you can't change into that major. One of them is nursing. So please know that at most universities that offer nursing, you have to enter as a nursing student. It's not that you can change into nursing. And there's also some others, like say, for example, at UC San Diego, I know that computer engineering and computer science, very impacted and very difficult to change into that major. Not impossible, but very difficult. It's a capped and impacted major. But a lot of times people do change their mind once, twice, 3 times. And just know that whatever you're whatever major you start out with in college, you don't necessarily have to end with that major. You have time to take classes, decide what you really like and don't, and what's a fit and what isn't. And usually most universities, that final decision on what is my absolute major, what am I getting my degree in, you usually don't have to finalize that decision until your junior or senior year of undergraduate college. So you do still have several years left to consider that. I know it's important to try to go to a college that has what you think is your number one major right now. So definitely take that into consideration, but just also know that it's okay if you're undecided, and it's okay that a lot of times people do and can and do change their minds about their major. If you want to, these are some resources I would offer. If that's at the top of your mind, is like, I really want to identify a college that has a department in what I want to study, and I want it to be a good department, and I want to make sure it connects to the future jobs and careers that I'm interested in. Some really good websites for that. One of them is called O-Net. And actually, O-Net Online is one that parents can use as well. It just gives a lot of very current information about jobs and careers today in the US. Big Future is one that's intended specifically for teenagers in their junior, senior year, so that they can learn about careers. And then a really good one that I like is mymajors.com. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You look up what are the different majors, or what is my major that I'm interested in, and find out exactly where that major is offered and what colleges and universities have degrees with that major. So mymajors.com is a really good one, as well as O-Net and Big Future. Okay, the next step is you need to figure out what is your criteria that like makes it or breaks it for you. There are some criteria, and they're different for everybody. That's going to be, well, I really want to go to a public institution, or I've always wanted to go to a private institution, and that's very important to me. Maybe you're doing something very specialized that requires vocational training, and you want to go to a vocational college. Maybe you want to start at a four-year university. Maybe you want to start and end at a two-year college, like a community college. For some people, it's also important to know like what degrees are offered. Like, does this college offer bachelors of arts, bachelors of science? If I wanted to go on after this, does this college happen to also have a master's program, a PhD program, or certificate program? Although you can change. You can go to one college as an undergraduate, and then once you graduate, you can go to apply to a different college for graduate school. So keep that in mind. Again, what majors and minors do they offer? Do they match your interests and your needs? Sometimes it's important to people to know, like, well, is this a popular major? Or is this a theoretical major or a practical major that I can really put into making money in a career soon after graduation? Sometimes there's more of a general education requirement at certain colleges. Certain curriculum might be more structured, that everyone has to do this certain way, or more individualized where you can choose. And also think about, if you want to get out in 4 years and that's your goal, then know about like, what is their average graduation rate? What is their average time to graduation at that college? Because if their average time is 5.5 years and that doesn't fit you, that might be a break criteria that you're like, that's not really for me. It might be important to you to know, like, is it a large or small campus? Overall enrollment, and then do they have large class sizes or small class sizes? Personally, I went to UC San Diego, and sometimes I had small discussion sections that were maybe only 20 people, but I also sometimes had large lectures that were 500 people. So it just depends on what type of education you do best with. So just that's something to look into. The faculty might be important to you. Like, is there a certain number of faculty in the department you plan to study in? What is their background? How are they distributed throughout the campus? Maybe what is the diversity level of faculty, or what is their average degree attainment? And sometimes people also will look at things like national rankings of campus. Of course, that can be subjective and based on many different things, or the advice of people who actually went there. So, that you have a lot of, like, for example, San Diego State will have like an alumni presence on, say, Instagram or TikTok or social media, so that you can see what they say about it. For a lot of people, geographic location is a really important consideration. Sometimes people want it to be in state versus out of state. How easy or not easy is it to travel to and from that place? Some people will be living at home with parents while they go to school. Some people will be living on campus. Some people will be living off campus, but not with their parents. So for a lot of people, having the school be, say, for example, maybe in driving distance or next to an airport or something like that might be an important consideration. Other things you might want to consider are the setting of the college. Like, is it urban in a city area? Is it suburban? Is it rural? Is it considered a safe campus? All campuses have a police department that have to give an annual safety report that you can read. It's published online every year. You also might want to know, like, what kind of things are in that area? Like, what stores are there? What restaurants and eateries are there? What kind of residential areas if I'm going to live nearby? For some people that have a faith-based practice, they want to know about what are the local worship services. Are they going to be available and offered to me? And also housing. What's the availability and cost of housing on that campus? Is it cheaper to live on or off campus? And you might also be starting to discover, oh, well, it's really inexpensive if I have like 3 suite mates of us in one room versus a double or a single, and you can choose, but you know, those choices also have financial impacts. For some people, some characteristics of a campus that might be important to you might be something like a religious affiliation. It might be a historically Black college or university. It might even be gender specific, like an all women's college. The student body diversity might be important to you. Like, are there people who look like me on the campus? What kind of food is really an important consideration. Some people have dietary restrictions, they have allergies, they might be vegan, vegetarian, they might need halal meals, kosher meals. So check, you know, with the campus housing and dining and find out what kind of food is offered on campus. For some people who are going into military programs like an ROTC, they want to find out, does that college have an Army ROTC or an Air Force ROTC? What are the military programs there? Or you might be a military dependent and you might want to make sure there's a Veterans Affairs office or a yellow ribbon office on campus where you can get resources and information. Some other things that might be important to you are like, what are the libraries like there? Are there computer labs that are accessible? What are the social quads like? You might have a disability, like a physical disability, a learning disability, an IEP that you need extra support, and you might want to find out, does this college offer support for people with disabilities? It might be really important to you to have available mental health counseling available, or a student health, and most colleges do have a student health type of clinic. So these are things to think about. For a lot of people, extracurriculars are important. So what sports are here? I want to play Division 1, 2, 3, or I want to go to those Division 1, 2, 3 basketball games, swim meets, track, softball, whatever it is. Is there creative and performing arts there? Like, do they have a theater department, a music department, dance, design, art? And what are the clubs that are there? What are the social life like there? What are the sororities and fraternities like? So these are all things that you might be part of your consideration. And I know, especially for parents, cost is maybe number one. Cost is a really important consideration. Tuition and fees, that's the big one. And that's the one that changes, varies a lot from college to college. All right. And then those are like direct costs. If you live on campus, room and board, which is basically rent and food, might also be a direct cost charged by the college. If you're living on campus, it's an indirect cost because you are paying for your own rent and your own food and deciding how much to spend. Also, you have things like books and supplies and just your basic living costs. You might need to pay for a cell phone plan. You might need to pay for a car, a computer, clothing, you know, just things that we all need. So this is the time, March, April, May, when the financial aid packages are being decided by colleges. Also, you should be finding out if you're eligible for any federal or state grants if you filled out the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. If it was the DREAM Act, it's only state money that you're eligible for. If it was the FAFSA, then you'll find out what federal and state money you might be eligible for. You might be hearing from campuses that they have their own specific campus grants. And a lot of times that's just integrated as part of their application that you already filled out. You might be finding out about scholarships, whether you're applying to your own outside scholarships or campus-based ones. And this is also a time when families have to make the decision, do we need to take a loan? Are we going to take a loan? And what's our maximum loan that we would be willing to take to help finance a college education? If you're trying to compare the cost from college to college, the best tool I have found is from an organization called U Aspire. So it's the letter U and then ASPIRE. They have a college cost calculator. They have it online and also, as you can see, like available on your phone. And basically, you could take any financial aid offers that you've been given from different colleges, kind of plug them into this calculator, and it will give you a very user-friendly side-by-side cost analysis of like, how much does it cost? How much are you getting in financial aid? And then how much are you still responsible for as a family? Okay, so next you have to start reviewing that list. What are your must-haves? What are the criteria that are really important to you, the student, and the family? Doing research is important. You can do campus visits. You can look at campus websites. There are third-party websites like Big Future. You can look at the school profile and find out things like, what was the average high school GPA of a student who was admitted here? Or what percentage of the student body is male or female, or, you know, whatever else you might be interested in statistics on. And then, of course, you come to the selection part where you take this criteria, you narrow it down to your top 3 or maybe your top 2 or your top 1 college. You have to think of it like you're a consumer, you're a buyer, and now it's time to go shopping. So what's going to end up in that shopping cart? And now that ChatGPT, ooh, I spelled that wrong. Sorry, my bad on the slide spelling. You might be using artificial intelligence or something like ChatGPT that can actually help you with a college search. And I'll give you an example. This is a prompt that is courtesy of Dr. Jeffrey Neal, who does college consulting. But if you are comfortable with something like ChatGPT instead of like a Google search, you could say or type into ChatGPT something like, I'm looking for colleges that are less well known, but offer exceptional opportunities in, and then you could fill in a specific field like environmental science or theater or engineering or whatever is your subject. You could say something like, please include smaller schools, hidden gems, colleges with unique programs that might not be on the typical big name list. The list should focus on, and then you could put a desired location like the Southwest, the Southeast, the Midwest, and consider, and then you can put things that are priority to you, like affordability or hands-on learning or diversity or, you know, whatever it is. You could even say something like, please exclude highly selective institutions, like you might not necessarily be interested in Ivy Leagues, and emphasize schools with accessible admissions and strong programs in whatever field or major. So, using kind of language like that in a program like ChatGPT can be helpful to give you a list. And of course, like with any search, it's only as good as the information that is out there, but it's a new tool that some students feel increasingly more comfortable using that instead of more old-fashioned, we'll say old-fashioned ways of searching. I used to use these things called books with paper, but now I usually go digital. All right. So 3 different students might have 3 different priorities and what's important to them in a college. And there's no such thing as the right priority. It's what's the priority for you, what's important to you, the student, and your family. Okay, so let's say student 1, these are their 3 top priorities. They have to be someplace close to home. Okay, so they know they're looking locally. They want someplace that they can afford without taking loans. They've made a family decision. We're not going to take loans. So affordability is like a #1 consideration for them. And they also want to make sure that they are accepted to their top choice major, not their number 2 or 3, but their #1 major. Those are the 3 important priorities for student 1. Here we have student 2. For this student, they want to go to a historically Black college or university. That's really important to them. They want to make sure that it has a top-ranked business program. They're going to be studying business administration, so having a good business department is important to them. And because they are vegetarian, it's important to them that they can find good vegetarian-friendly dining on or near campus. So that's student 2. Let's say here's student number 3, and here are their top 3 priorities. They are going to be studying music, so they want to make sure it has an excellent music department. And if they are specific to a certain instrument, for example, they want to make sure that they have access to that. The student also maybe has a learning disability and needs some kind of accommodations. And so they want to make sure that there is some kind of a department for students with disabilities or IEPs. It's a little bit different when you're an adult at the college level, but there are many colleges that do offer accommodations for students with learning family differences. And then this third thing is that they are really into sports and they want to make sure to go to lots of games, and they want to make sure that there's popular sports teams that they like at this college. So I'm not in any way comparing these three. None of these students has made good or bad choices or priorities. The beauty of this is it's what's important to you. You need to know what's important to you, the student, and your family, and really kind of narrow down to, yes, I want a million things, but if I could choose my top three, here's the top three that are important to us. So make it what you want it to be. If possible, the best way to get a feel for a college is to personally visit the campus. However, I know that that can be really difficult. That can be hard logistically. That can be hard financially. Okay, but it is a really good way to get the feel of a campus and find out what it's like. If you cannot visit the campus in person, which I hope you can, but if you can't, many campus websites have virtual tours that are especially really good these days with drone technology and video technology. You can research the campus history and statistics and facts. You can even a lot of times call alumni or staff or faculty, looking at their contact pages and seeing if you're able to ask them specific questions. You can look into classes, look at syllabi, see what kind of texts the students are required to read or what assignments they're required to do. And you can even read the campus, like, every campus usually has at least one campus paper or magazine or publication. And a lot of them have social media posts, not just the college itself, but specific sub-departments. Okay, so that if you're interested in the financial aid, the music department, the math department, whatever it is, look at their social media, because many of them now do have a social media presence. Okay. Step 7, time to think about money. As you're waiting to hear back from campuses, now is the time to make sure you have applied for financial aid. If you're a 12th grader or a 12th grade family member, if you haven't done it yet, you absolutely need to fill out the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. In California, the March 2nd deadline was just extended to April 2nd, so you still have a few more weeks before the priority deadline. The form will still be available after that for the 25-26 school year, but doing it by the priority deadline gives you the most access to, priority funding. And the only people I would say who cannot fill out either a FAFSA or a DREAM Act is people who are on a non-immigrant visa. Unfortunately, if you're on a non-immigrant visa, say like an F visa, an H visa, you're not eligible for either the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. You would have to pursue your own scholarships that aren't, based on certain citizenship or residency, or loans or your own savings. But everybody else should be filling out either a FAFSA or a DREAM Act. So most students do fill out one or the other, and that's what lets them know any federal or state money that they can choose to accept or not. Like, for example, if you're offered a loan, you don't have to accept it. If you're offered a grant, I strongly encourage you to accept it. There's also scholarships which have varying deadlines that you might be applying to outside of the federal and state process. And some private universities also require something called the CSS profile, which is we call it FAFSA's nosy cousin, where it asks a lot of the same questions FAFSA does, but it gets into even more detail. San Diego CalSOAP, we have a scholarship section that lists information. We also have social media posts where we're trying to post every day information, including scholarships where the deadlines are coming up soon. A great place for a national database is fastweb.com as well as scholarships.com. I encourage you to check those ones out. MALDEF.org is specifically for students who might be filling out the DREAM Act, students who might be residents, but not necessarily like legal US citizens. And so MALDEF is an organization that has scholarship listings that they don't require necessarily citizenship or residency, because some scholarships do require American citizenship or American residency to qualify for that scholarship. All right, now once you've filled out your FAFSA or your DREAM Act, now it's around that time of year where, especially if you're considering a college in California, you want to create a Web Grants for Students account. This is where you'll be able to accept and view things like if you got a Cal Grant award, you can accept it in your Web Grants account. If you qualified for what's called the Middle Class Scholarship, which is for a UC or a CSU for partial tuition coverage, that can be accepted and discovered in the Web Grants for Students account. So this is really important if you know you want to attend a college somewhere in California. It's called Web Grants for Students. Okay, so now is time when you get mail. A lot of times it's not going to be paper mail anymore. A lot of times you get an email from a college that says, please check your portal. We have information about your acceptance status, or we have information about your financial aid package, or we have information about, needing to accept your offer, your intent to register, and that type of thing. So now it's really getting down to the time where you've got to be checking those portals at least on a weekly basis, if not daily. If you get an acceptance letter, congratulations, celebrate that. Congratulations to you. Look at the requirements. It's always a provisional acceptance that's based on things like, are you going to keep your GPA up? Are you finishing all the classes you need to? This is when you can kind of review, okay, what is the cost of attendance? What's the affordability? Can I afford a 4-year campus, or do I need to start out at a 2-year so we have time to look at finances and save more money? All right. To give you an idea, this is an example of what a sample financial aid award letter from a college might look like. Unfortunately, there is no national or international standard on what must be included in a financial aid award letter or how it's going to be phrased. So you might see them look all very different, but hopefully it gives you a total estimated cost of attendance that includes the tuition and fees as well as other indirect costs. Hopefully it gives you all the financial aid you're being offered, and it will break it down. Like this one is really nice, for example, because it breaks it down into fall and spring and total. And it tells you what's a faculty scholarship, a federal Pell Grant, an opportunity grant, what's a loan. Remember, a loan is different. It's not gift aid. It does have to be repaid. And then it gives you kind of, okay, well, here's your total estimated balance after we apply everything. So even after all this, you would still have to make, this is your estimated monthly payment or your estimated annual payment. So it also tells them down at the bottom, oh, hey, you also got federal work study, $1,250 a semester, which is $2,500 total. So if you get an on-campus job, that can also be added in. But these are just examples of what different financial aid offers look like from different colleges. You'll notice they're all different. They don't have the same format. They're not in the same order. So hopefully you get one that's as user-friendly as possible. And again, I recommend the UAspire cost calculator, where you can take the information you're seeing in here, put it into a cost calculator so that now you're really comparing apples to apples and seeing how the prices line up. So let's say you have a top 3 schools or a top 5 schools. You can kind of make a chart like this in Excel or Google Sheets that has, okay, what is this school's tuition and fees? What is their estimated cost for rent and food, books and supplies, personal expenses, and then what am I getting in gift aid? Maybe it'll be from the college. It could be a grant from the college. It could be a grant from the state, could be a federal grant. It could be a middle class scholarship. It could also be a loan offer, work study. And so that way you can really kind of compare them again. What would we be expected to pay? Can we afford this? Yes or no? And then the final step is notifying the college of your final choice. A lot of colleges have either what they call an SIR, a date for a statement of intent to register, or they might call it AYO, accept your offer. And for a lot of colleges nationally, it is May 1st. Sometimes it might be later, but May 1st is a pretty common deadline for intent to register. So you have to remain up to date with your college portals. And it's also okay to decline a college you will not attend. Sometimes people wait until the last day of April or May 1st itself before they decline because they want to leave their offers open, and that's completely understandable. But when you do decide to accept your offer somewhere, it is okay to decline at another university. And that helps them with their planning as well. There might be other requested paperwork or documentation that they might need at that time or soon after, such as like, are you applying for on-campus housing? Are you going to attend an orientation? What is your registration date for classes? Do you need to take any placement exams? Are there any campus-based financial aid forms that are separate than what you've already filled out? And if it's like an audition or interview-based major, like sometimes the performing arts department also requires like a secondary interview or audition or portfolio, they'll also let you know about that. But for many people, May 1st is decision time. That's when you've got to have made that final decision by then. Okay, what can I do if I'm waitlisted or if I'm denied admittance? What you want to do is if you're waitlisted, you want to read that letter carefully. When I say letter, it could be digital. You may need to opt in to still be considered in the process. So sometimes people will say, you're offered a spot on the waiting list. So it's going to depend on how many people accept their offers. And if we do have space, though, in order to remain on the waiting list, you have to opt in. So if your college says that and you are really interested in that college, then please make sure you opt in by their deadline to opt in on their waiting list. Okay. Now, if you're denied admittance, you have the options to do one of the following. Most colleges have a process where you can appeal the decision, and they might have an online or an in-person process. But usually this is only considered if you have new information that's not already on the application. They have been reviewing these applications for a long time and with a lot of attention to detail. So for many of them, they don't allow an appeal unless you have new information that you did not include on your initial application that might, in a new context, give them a different perspective on you that they didn't have before. So you can appeal the decision. Not all appeals are going to be successful, okay? But that is a step you can take if it's really important to you to be admitted to that certain college. You also will probably be getting acceptances from other colleges, and you can accept at another campus, a different campus instead. So have your projection be a little bit different than what you originally thought. And then also, sometimes people are like, look, this is my college. I want to go here. I must go here. And any way I can do it, I will. And if they don't get in as a freshman, one possibility might be is to apply to a local community college, study there for about 2 years, and then in your sophomore year, apply to transfer to that university when your odds of being accepted are actually higher as a transfer student than as a freshman applicant. And then if you're accepted, you could finish your junior and senior year at that university. So those are kind of the options if you are waitlisted or denied admittance at a college. I did mention that in acceptance can be provisional, and that means, yes, a college could possibly take back your acceptance. This is kind of rare, but there are instances where it happens, and these are usually the reasons that an acceptance to a campus might be terminated. If you did not adhere to the conditions stated in your letter of acceptance, they might have had some specific conditions that you had to adhere by or deadlines that you had to meet. If you didn't respond to a request for you to send information to them through your college portal, for example, if you did not pay your intent to register fee or your housing deposit, or you didn't accept your offer or make an intent to register by the deadline, that means they could take away your acceptance. Also, if you receive a D or an F in a class, like say maybe second semester, and that is not acceptable to them because it isn't for many universities, you do have to keep on top of that. And then also, if your final transcript does not match what you self-reported in your original application, that can be a problem as well. So that's why it's very important that you're honest and thorough on your application when you're putting in your classes and your grades. All right. I do tell people, if you can, try to visit the campus in person. If you can't, try to visit it virtually. Don't rely on just name recognition. Find what's the best fit for you, what has your major, and what has the things that are priorities to you. You can't just accept a generalization like, oh, that college is impossible to get into, or, oh, that's just a party school, or it's too expensive. You also have to do your own research and find out what's possible for your particular situation. If you put that college on your list and you bothered to apply, be willing to possibly go there. All right. I know that it's also a time when a lot of people are picking campuses because, oh, my best friend is going there, my girlfriend or boyfriend is going there. I guarantee you that no matter what, it is important to choose the right fit for you, regardless of whether someone from high school is going there or not. You will work it out, and at any college you go to, you're going to make connections and you're going to make friends. And there is a right fit for you. It doesn't have to be the exact same people you were surrounding yourself with in high school. Don't rule out a college because of cost alone, but once you've reviewed their financial aid offer, if it is out of reach, then have another backup, have a more affordable plan to go to, but also make sure you know it's not just about the sticker price, like the price on the front of a car. It's okay, well, what am I getting in scholarships? What am I getting in grants? What am I offered in work study? What am I offered in loans? Can we make this affordable? And talk, of course, having conversations with families, teachers, counselors, that type of thing is important for this. A few last things to keep in mind for students. Your feelings are natural. This is a time of great change. If you're in 12th grade, this is a really, really big time of change for you. Also, remember that perfection doesn't exist. There's no perfect college. There's no perfect financial aid package. I have yet to look at a financial aid award letter that just says 100% paid full ride. Full ride is not terminology that you will ever see on a financial aid package. It might be a combination of lots of different things that cover your cost of attendance, but there's no such thing as the perfect major even. So just remember, other people's social media posts don't have to do with you and your life. It has to do with them and their life. So you choose what's a priority for you and what's important to you. Also, I know there's many steps, but try to break them down into these small manageable chunks with a calendar. Okay, here's my deadline for intent to register. Here's when I'm getting my financial aid award offers. Here's when I need to put a housing deposit or go to orientation. Here's my registration. You know, if you break this down into doable chunks, it is possible. Parents, guardians, families, and school staff support is so important. So students feel supported when their families support them. And this is also kind of a bittersweet time. You want to celebrate new beginnings, but you also want to process the end of an era. It's the end of your high school life and the end, in a way, could be of your childhood if you are turning 18 or have turned 18. So, you know, close that high school chapter with celebration and with joy for finishing it, and hopefully with a positive outlook for looking what's to come in your future. Our website again is calsoapsandiego.org, and we do have a webinars and blog section where this will be posted tomorrow. These were some of the resources that I mentioned. We have a CalSoap scholarship list, and we also post those on social media. O-Net has a good occupation search, O-Net Online. Big Future through College Board is a great resource, mymajors.com also. And for money-related issues, UAspire has a great college cost calculator. And then after you've done the FAFSA or the DREAM Act, then if you're going to college in California, you can go to My Grant Info and create a Web Grants for Students account. So these links will be in the slide deck and available to you tomorrow online. So let me go ahead and stop sharing the screen. And I don't see anything in the Q&A. So at this time, I'm just going to go ahead and invite people to, you know, if they have questions, email me. You have my email because you've gotten the Zoom reminders for tonight. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you, Charmaine, for handling the Q&A. And I'm going to go ahead and end a little bit early tonight and give you some time back. And thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here. Good night.